Attorney General Bondi, I think you and pretty much everybody else here and throughout the country believes that convicted sex offenders don't deserve special treatment or privileges in prison. And yet Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, received perk after perk in prison. In July, she had a 2-day interview with your deputy and President Trump's former defense attorney, Todd Blanche. Just days after that, Maxwell was transferred from a federal correctional institution in Florida to a minimum security camp in Texas, which she, as a sex offender, would normally be ineligible for. At this new facility, as the ranking member talked about, and by the way, it's nicknamed Club Fed, we've heard reports that she's been afforded special privileges: puppy time, private workouts, personal mail, secretarial services. Attorney General Bondi, does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment and privileges in prison? Yes or no?
Let me be crystal clear on this. No. And
Thank you.
let me keep going. No, let me keep going.
Perfect. Well, I
did not know she was being transferred.
I asked you yes or no.
She was not transferred to a lower
Mr. Chairman,
level.
please stop the clock and remind the witness of the rules. One rule she needs to understand here.
And I'm glad that we're agreeing. So when we're agreeing, we can move on to some other things.
When
but
we're
I
not
want you to
agreeing,
know that every time she does get these perks, and it's been publicly reported, that the folks she's abused, the survivors who are sitting here, they see themselves as being denied justice. They feel re-traumatized. And I'm glad that we agree on that. But she should not be in that prison. And she needs to be moved back to a maximum security prison as soon as possible. But what she has told another committee here is that she won't cooperate with them unless she gets clemency from Donald Trump.
What you just watched is not a political debate. It is a deposition. A member of Congress, under the authority of the House Judiciary Committee, placed a single question before the nation's top law enforcement officer. Does a convicted sex trafficker deserve special treatment in federal prison? Yes or no? The Attorney General of the United States answered, no. And then she proceeded to demonstrate, in real time, that the answer she gave means nothing. Because Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, a woman found guilty of sex trafficking of minors, is currently sitting in a minimum security facility in Texas, nicknamed Club Fed. She has access to puppy time, private workouts, personal mail, secretarial services. These are not rumors. These are not opposition talking points. These are documented privileges reported by multiple news outlets and entered into the congressional record. This is the facility that Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States and the former personal defense attorney of Donald Trump, interviewed Maxwell at for 2 full days in July. 2 days. And within days of that interview, Maxwell was transferred out of a federal correctional institution in Florida and into this minimum security camp, a camp that federal regulations state she is normally ineligible for. Because she is a sex offender. Let that sequence register. Deputy Ag meets with Maxwell for 2 days. Maxwell gets transferred to a facility she cannot legally qualify for. The Attorney General says she did not know this happened until after the fact. That is either a lie or a confession of catastrophic incompetence. There is no third option. We are going to proceed now to the second clip. Because this is where the hearing becomes not just a political spectacle, but a documented record of evasion that will follow Pam Bondi for the rest of her professional life.
I said I do not agree she should receive special treatment. She was transferred, I learned after the fact, to the same level facility, and that is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. I was not involved in that at all. The same level facility, I don't know why, but you know, instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, Hopefully will die in prison. You
I
should be
have a
talking
couple-
about Irina Zarutska,
I have a couple
who
of
died
other
on a
questions.
subway.
Right, and I absolutely...
You don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues. But we're going to move back to you.
I bet we are.
Yes, of course, because you're here to testify. That's what the whole point of this endeavor is. So of course we're moving back to you. It is all about you. So as we've heard, she took the fifth in response to every single question in that committee hearing. And her lawyer dangled the offer of clemency. Should Donald Trump pardon or commute her sentence? Should she be released from prison, yes or no? You said you hope she dies there, so I'm hoping the answer is no.
I already answered that question.
Good. I'm very glad. I really like this bipartisan agreement about
Well, when
what
it
should
agrees
happen
with
with
you.
her.
But you
Yes.
don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You don't want to talk about
I talk about her
murdered
all
by
the
a
time,
violent crime
but I
offender
am not
in
here
your
to
jurisdiction.
testify before Congress. You are. That is your job today.
You are
That's what you're getting paid for.
obsessed with attack.
Time belongs-
So
time belongs to the
I
young lady.
want you to know that your own DOJ employee, he's recently been demoted and had some other problems, advises on pardons. Do you think he will be advising Mr. Trump on any kind of clemency or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
I'm not going to speculate, and you couldn't even identify properly. That's why you don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You couldn't properly identify her relative.
I absolutely
It's embarrassing.
have been, and her family, by the way, appreciates all of the condolences, all of the help, everything that our law enforcement in North Carolina has been doing to help her family. Her family feels well treated. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an article by former Attorney General William P. Barr entitled, "Why Pam Bondi Didn't Publish All the Epstein Files in 30 Days." The answer is simple. It was not possible, from the Wall Street Journal.
Well said. Without objection, the gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. May I respond 20 seconds to something that Congresswoman Ross said?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. She also opposed a sex offender registry as head of North Carolina ACLU.
Let us now perform a forensic examination of what you just heard. Representative Ross asked a direct question, a question with one correct answer, a question that Bondi herself had already made easy to answer by saying, on the record, that she does not agree Maxwell should receive special treatment. So Ross asked the logical next question. If you don't agree she should be there, who sent her there? Who signed the papers? Was it Todd Blanche? Was it one of your other subordinates? These are not trick questions. They are not ambushes. They are the most basic questions of institutional accountability. Someone made a decision that moved a convicted sex offender into a facility she was ineligible for. Someone signed something. Someone picked up a phone. Someone authorized this. Pam Bondi's answer was, "I learned after the fact." It is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. I was not involved in that at all. Let us examine each of those three statements using the law. Statement 1. I learned after the fact. The Deputy Attorney General of the United States conducted a 2-day interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. The transfer happened days later. The Attorney General, who is the direct supervisor of the Deputy Attorney General, claims she had no prior knowledge. If that is true, it means Todd Blanche, a man who was Donald Trump's personal defense attorney before becoming the second highest law enforcement official in America, conducted a high-profile interview with the most famous convicted accomplice of a child sex trafficking network, arranged her, transferred to a facility she was ineligible for, and told his boss nothing, and his boss noticed nothing. That is not a chain of command. That is a black operation running inside the Department of Justice. Statement 2. It is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. Here's what the law says. The Department of Justice oversees the Bureau of Prisons. The Attorney General is the head of the Department of Justice. The Bureau of Prisons does not operate independently of DOJ authority. It operates under it. When the Attorney General says the transfer is a question for the Bureau of Prisons, she is doing something very specific. She is attempting to place a wall between herself and a decision that was made by people who report to her. A decision that benefited a woman who is reportedly dangling cooperation with investigators in exchange for a presidential pardon. That wall is not legally credible. Statement 3. I was not involved in that at all. This statement cannot be simultaneously true with the fact that her deputy, a man she appointed, a man who serves at her pleasure, spent 2 days with Maxwell just before the transfer. If Blanche acted alone, without Bondi's knowledge, then Bondi has lost control of her own department. If Blanche acted with her knowledge, and she is now denying it, that is perjury. Perjury is a federal crime. It carries up to 5 years in federal prison. It is defined as knowingly making a false statement under oath about a material fact. The security level of a federal prison, whether it is a federal correctional institution or a minimum security camp, is a material fact. Bondi stated on the record that it was a same-level facility. It was not. That is provably, documentably false. Prison records exist. Classification records exist. The transfer paperwork exists. The committee can subpoena every one of those documents. Now let us address the deflection. When pressed on who authorized the transfer, Pam Bondi did not answer. Instead, she pivoted to Irena Zarutka, a woman who died on a subway in North Carolina. She told the committee they should be talking about that case instead. This is a technique with a name. It is called whataboutism. It is the rhetorical move of a witness who cannot answer the question in front of them, so they substitute a different question, one they prefer. It is not an argument. It is not a rebuttal. It is a signal. When a witness cannot answer the question asked and pivots to a different topic, the professional inference is clear. They cannot answer the question asked. And the committee saw it. Representative Ross responded immediately. I am not here to testify before Congress. You are. That is your job today. She was right. The Attorney General of the United States appeared before the House Judiciary Committee with one job: to answer questions about the operations of the Department of Justice. She was asked who authorized the Maxwell transfer. She did not answer. She was asked who signed off on the special privileges. She did not answer. She was asked whether her DOJ employees would advise the president on a pardon for Maxwell. She refused to speculate. This is not testimony. This is performance. And the performance has a purpose. Every minute Bondi spent talking about Irena Zarutka was a minute she did not spend answering for Todd Blanche. Every deflection extended the clock. Every non-answer added distance between the Department of Justice and the decision that moved a child sex trafficker into Club Fed. Now we examine the broader pattern. Maxwell has reportedly invoked the Fifth Amendment in response to every single question put to her by other congressional committees. Her lawyer has openly stated she will not cooperate unless she receives clemency from the President of the United States. She is using her knowledge of who Jeffrey Epstein's clients were, who attended his island, who participated in the trafficking network, as leverage. That leverage only works if someone in power wants that information suppressed. Consider the following documented facts. Howard Lutnick, the current Secretary of Commerce, visited Epstein's island in 2012. That is 4 years after Epstein's first conviction as a registered sex offender. His name appears in the Epstein files. The Department of Justice has reportedly not questioned him about this. John Phelan and Stephen Feinberg, both appointed to senior positions in this administration, also have documented ties to Epstein. The DOJ has reportedly not questioned them either. When Representative Billink asked Bondi directly whether her department had questioned these officials, Bondi said she did not know. When pressed, she said she was stunned by the question. The Attorney General of the United States was stunned to be asked whether her department had investigated the Epstein connections of senior Trump officials. That is the answer. That is the whole answer. The Department of Justice is not investigating the Epstein network. It is managing it. It is managing Maxwell's conditions of confinement. It is managing the release and the withholding of the files. It is managing who gets questioned and who does not. And the person nominally in charge of this management is either directing it or has lost control of her own department to a former Trump defense attorney who operates with complete autonomy. Neither of those possibilities is acceptable. The institutional consequences of this hearing are now in motion. The record is made. The testimony is on the record. Bondi stated the facility was the same level. It was not. That contradiction is documented. The subpoena power of the House Judiciary Committee is available. Bureau of Prisons transfer records are obtainable. Todd Blanche can be called to testify. The authorization paperwork for Maxwell's privileges exists somewhere. In a filing cabinet. On a server. In someone's email. Documents do not lie. Witnesses do. The survivors of Ghislaine Maxwell's crimes were present in that hearing room. They watched the Attorney General of the United States deflect, evade, and redirect. They watched a woman who says she hopes Maxwell dies in prison refuse to explain why Maxwell is currently living in Club Fed. They watched the nation's top law enforcement officer treat their suffering as a prop, something to be agreed with politely and then set aside. The facts remain on the record. The law does not change because the Attorney General is uncomfortable. The questions are specific. Who sent her there? Who signed the papers? Who approved the puppy time? And until those questions are answered, not deflected, not redirected, not substituted with different questions, this case remains open. We will be here when the documents come out. Stay with us.